The plan for this week is that I finish preparing everything that I need before I start with the walls. There's not so much left. I have to add some things on the lift, see how it works and if it's strong enough. The first few logs that I will be lifting up are the biggest logs. I will start with the biggest logs, and then as I go up on the walls I will use the smaller logs, so that way I don't have to lift the heavy logs up on the top. Then I have to get an oak log, maybe 2 meters long, and then I will cut out 10 or 15 centimeter slices. I will put those on the foundation between the concrete and the walls. It's not a good idea to put the spruce wood directly on the concrete, because the concrete stays humid and spruce would rot pretty quickly. Oak is much more resistant and I think can last a very long time. Today I already did this really small and quick ramp. I want to keep the log a bit off the ground also when I'll be cutting the notches and the rest of the stuff before then lifting it on the wall. And also I will lift the log on the wall, then scribe everything. I will put it back down here, cut out the notch and then put it back on the wall. So I think it will be a lot easier if the log is just slightly off the ground, and also to not get it dirty with the mud and whatever. I will already try to take the first log and put it on here today. I really can't wait to start building the walls. I don't know if there's... oh yeah, I have to fix that threaded rod. I destroyed it while lifting the lift up for the second time. I didn't saw what was happening here when I was in the tractor, and then when I came I saw that the lift went over that threaded rod and is completely bent, so now I don't know, I have to do something to fix it. The log number 65 will be the starting log, and that's why it was really important that I wrote down all the diameters, lengths and just all the details about the logs. If a log was curved or something was wrong, I have everything here. So now I don't have to measure again or search by the eye which log is the biggest or which could be the right log. I would lose so much time now doing that. I just come to the book and I look which log I need. I have the number and it's done in a moment. I would advise to anyone that wants to build or is building a log house to number all the logs and write down the diameters on both ends and maybe even in the center, or you can calculate that after. I will try to share as much as I can what I learned and what I see that is important to do or can save you a lot of time. I have to split this log in half, and I'm just a bit worried that I do a mistake or that I cut it curved or something, because there's really no mistakes that I can do. If I screw this log, that would be a big problem. I cannot make a mistake on any log. I've split the logs in half before, but like really small. But it didn't really matter if it's done perfectly or if it goes a bit distorted. Here it needs to go pretty much perfect, because then I will get 2 pieces out of this log, and they will go on 2 sides of the walls and will be the first 2 logs that I will start the walls with, because that way this flat side will fit really nicely on the foundation. I'm quite happy with how it came out. There are a few small bumps. What really matters is that the cut is not done in a spiral. If there are a few small bumps, I think that is not a problem at all. Also, it feels nice to see a bit of sawdust flying and cutting the first log and really starting to work on the house. There was a lot of preparation, but all of it was really important. If nothing else, it will at least save me time from now on. This log is 45 centimeters in diameter, and I've done a bit of calculations. There's 1 cubic meter of wood in this log, which weighs around 700 kilos, considering that this log is still pretty green and has a lot of water in it. And I also see that the wood on the inside is still frozen, which is pretty interesting, and it shows how good of an isolator the wood is. On the outside is already 2 weeks that is pretty warm, at least around 10, sometimes even 15 degrees. I was not able to get the oak log, but I got these boards, and I think they'll be just as good enough as the slice of an oak log. Maybe even better, because I left a bit of space between, so now the air can flow probably this way it will last even longer. And I got them for free from a friend. He has a big wood workshop, and basically these were just the leftovers and scraps that they cannot use. I have to rewire all of the cables on the lift. I did it already for at least 5 times, and this work requires really a lot of patience. And the reason I had to do it all again is even if I used 3 of these blocking clamps, the cable was still sliding out. So now I have to do like a knot at the end, and someone warned me about the cable sliding out under the comments of the last video. No matter how many of the blocking clamps you use, if you don't do a knot going back through the bolts and then under another clamp, the cable, when it's under the tension, will just slide out. So luckily I saw this before I even started lifting up the logs. Otherwise I think this would end pretty badly. This was the first time that I've ever cut the saddle, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I've decided to do the saddle 70 centimeters, which is 25 centimeters more than the biggest log, and all the saddles up to the top of the wall will be the same size. I think that way it looks a lot nicer if all the saddles are the same size. I'm not really sure if it's cut under the perfect angle. I will be doing all by the eye and just hoping for the best. There's also a lot of things to know when deciding exactly where to put the saddle, but I would like to explain that later on the full logs. And I will have a lot of this same work, so there's gonna be plenty of time to explain everything into the details. This is really amazing. I'm so happy that it's working. You cannot even imagine how much work this will save me. I decided to get the blockchain for the lifting. That way I don't need the electricity, and also it's very easy. You pretty much pull without any force and the log is going up. And also it's very accurate. You can lift it exactly to the height you want and it doesn't drop down, so it's just amazing. I knew how I wanted this lift to work, but I had no idea if I would be able to make it work as I imagined it. For this first log, it's going awesome so far. I'm really just so happy that the lift is working. You cannot even imagine. I was a bit nervous waiting for the test and to see what will happen with the construction. If it's gonna be strong enough or I don't know, I had no idea what could happen. Luckily so far nothing broke, nothing seemed like it was even close to the limit of giving up. I mean, the first two halves of the full log had around 400 kilos each. So the real test will be with the other full 4 logs. I think those have around 700, 800 kilos. And also this small ramp that I did around the foundation to keep the logs off the ground. It saves so much time, and I don't have to worry when cutting something on the log to touch the ground. And when I'm putting around the strap or the cable, the log is already off the ground, so it's really easy. It's something very simple, but it saves a lot of time, effort, and it took me more than a week from when I lifted up the construction until today, when everything was ready to finally lift the logs. But I don't regret taking a few extra days to really make sure that everything is like it has to be, and rewiring all the cables with the nod. And then I connected also these 4 logs that are going out with the cable, so that way when I lift on one side it doesn't move so much. I also decided to put the support logs on the ends of the lift. I think this takes a lot of weight when lifting up the log, otherwise everything will be on the cables. Probably it would hold also without the support, but I think it's better to take an extra safety step than to regret it later when something goes wrong. I already have the next 4 logs in place, but I still need to study a bit the notches and how to cut everything, because once you start cutting the notches, if you do something wrong, here is no turning back. You pretty much throw away a log if you do the notch wrong or you cut something too deep. I have the book from Robert Chambers about the building of log houses, and there is explained really good everything about the notches, the saddle, which logs to select next, and pretty much everything you need to know when building the walls of the log house. And also the rest, the roof and windows. I don't know, a lot of useful information is in there. But still, until you really do it and you learn, and for sure I will do some mistakes. I think it would be impossible that I build all the log house, the walls, the roof, and just everything else without doing some mistakes. But that's what interesting to me, just seeing how far I can come and what I learn with this, and being creative and coming up with my solutions and just putting in some of my ideas, seeing what works. Just like this lift, I never seen something like this before. I watched a lot of videos and everything about the log cabin building on YouTube, and I came up with this in my head. I thought it could work, and I just went with it, and so far it's working amazingly. And with the blockchain you can adjust the height and leave it exactly where you want. It doesn't drop down, and that way it saves so much time. If you have to lift it just a bit up, then cut something, you can put it back down. You see, if you have to cut again something, and you can lift it up and down without pretty much any effort, without breaking your back. Those that did this work before, you pretty much know how much work it is just lifting the logs up and down. Even if the logs are smaller, having something like this can really change everything, and it makes the work a lot more enjoyable. So like I said before, I'm just too happy that it's working, and also that I'm finally here to really start working on the log house. I done all the preparation and now work on the part that I was looking forward to since the start months ago. I'm very excited for each log that I put on the wall, and just seeing how the walls go up, that is just an amazing feeling. Just seeing these first 2 logs on the walls, it feels really good. Another thing that I was also really happy when I lowered the log on the place is that all 3 blocks were really perfectly in level, and there was no gaps on either side or in the middle. So that was also really important, because if there was any gap or in the middle or on the sides, then later with the weight of the other logs it would either shift to the side, or if the gap was in the middle it would curve down, and I would have the gap there between the logs. So that is really important, that the first log sits on the foundation firmly without the gaps or any spaces. And again, thanks to everyone for watching. all the comments on the previous videos, all the nice words. And I know a lot of you didn't really understand how this thing will work or if it's gonna work. So I hope now it's more understandable what I had in mind. And I think that's the best part of this project, sharing it with others and then understanding step by step why I did something and seeing how everything comes together. That I think is something really special about building what I'm building and being creative, coming up with the solutions, not really having all the tools that I would need and just coming up with my ideas to solve the problem. I enjoy it so much, and it's really a great satisfaction when you see everything come to life and it works like you imagine it. That I don't know, it's really hard to explain this feeling. You really have to do it to understand what I'm talking about. And I encourage everyone to not be scared and just go and do what you want to do, because something seems really difficult until the moment that you start doing it, and then just everything falls in place and it's much easier than what you expected. And really the hardest moment is to get the courage to start, and then when you start to move and you get into the flow, for me it's actually a lot harder to stop working than to not work. And thanks again for watching, and please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. That way you see the future videos, because I don't know, sometimes YouTube works really strangely. It doesn't always send out to all the people when I upload a new video. If you also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, that way you are sure that you receive all the videos when I upload them. So stay safe, and I wish a great day to everyone.